Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Height. I'm Director of Theater at Bennett Academy and also the writer and director of what you're about to witness. In the first half of the 20th century, 11 million people were exterminated because they were different. This is known as the Holocaust. In the last days of World War II, as Allied troops advanced into Europe, they were not prepared for the atrocities they were about to find. Crimes against humanity in the form of death camps had been set up by the Nazis to eliminate all those that did not fit in with their perfect society. Of the 11 million that were killed, 6 million were Jews. The remaining 5 million were made up of gypsies, homosexuals, communists, political dissidents, Jehovah's Witnesses, and the physically and mentally handicapped. One of the most notorious of the camps was Auschwitz. At its peak, 9,000 people a day were being processed. It was said that if you were a prisoner at Auschwitz, the only way out was up the chimney. At one point, the cremation ovens burned with such intensity that the lightning rods on the tops of the chimneys melted. There were times that children and infants were thrown into the inferno, still alive. After the Nuremberg trials, the world vowed, this must never happen again. Or can it? Have perhaps the seeds of another Holocaust been planted right here within our own society? The story you're about to see has a rather strange beginning that I'd like to share with you before we start. Several years ago, I was on vacation with my family in Southern California. And we were doing all the usual tourist trap stops, Disneyland, Universal Studios, and so forth. And we added one more stop to our agenda, and that was the Simon Wiesenthal Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles. This is a museum that has been built and dedicated to all groups of people who have been persecuted throughout history. We were rather short on time that day and decided only to go through the Holocaust section. When you do, you're given a card with a picture of a child that had suffered through the Holocaust, and you follow their story. Your journey begins in a mock-up of a German village in the early 1930s, where groups of people are talking back and forth to each other about the problems of the day and how many of these problems might go away if certain people were no longer around. As your journey progresses, you see many multimedia displays documenting the rise of Hitler and the Third Reich. And your journey ends as you pass the gates of Auschwitz and into a gas chamber where the doors close behind you. I was watching the reaction of my 8-year-old son, who was very intent on what he was seeing. We'd broken away from the group we were with, and it was just the two of us watching footage of a Hitler rally. Unfortunately for him, it was not in closed caption. My son is completely deaf. I happened to look down to see him suddenly raise his right arm in a Nazi salute, and I was horrified. I was also very thankful that no one was around to see this happen. Trying to keep my composure, I signed to him asking, "Why did you just do that?" And he signed back, "Dad, I thought I was supposed to." Everybody in the film was doing it. I realized in that one chilling moment how easy it is for young people today to become involved in hate groups. I've told this story on many occasions to the classes that I teach at Bennett Academy, and I never cease to be amazed at the lack of knowledge that young people today have of the Holocaust, and also the amount of information available to them on the internet from organized hate groups, groups that are looking for young, new recruits. They're after our kids. Hate is not a normal behavior pattern. You must be taught to hate a specific group of people. You're not born with this. And that's why Testament was written, in the hope of breaking the cycle of hate by showing the young people today the consequences. Art can imitate life, and life can imitate art. And art in the form of theater can be a wonderful, powerful teaching tool to drive home a point. And for the past 7 months, the 10 young actors you're about to see have been on a quest. They have been going out performing in front of 2,000 people to this day to spread the word and build a tomorrow of peace and tolerance. From the letters that we've been receiving over the past months, some of which are on display in the lobby tonight, I dare say that they are succeeding. They are speaking for the 11 million that can no longer speak for themselves. We'll start our story at this time. Our location is a Holocaust museum in Southern California. Its walls are decorated with images of pain, death, torture, and tears. And 4 modern-day young people, and perhaps you too, are about to have their lives changed forever as we present Testament.
This is the pits. I thought we were going to Disneyland.
We are. Dad just wanted us to see this first. Just shut up and humor him. After this, we can have some real fun.
I don't see why I have to waste my time in this stupid building with a bunch of pictures of dead people. This bites.
Quit complaining. You're not having to pay for the trip anyways. Dad said that Carol and I could each bring one friend along. I didn't bring you along to listen to you complain all the time. This isn't Burger King, you know. You're not always going to have it your way.
The only reason I came was to get a little time with Susan. She never pays any attention to me in a large group, and I thought with only a couple distractions around, we could get to know each other.
Thanks a lot. I thought we were friends.
We are. It's just that our eyes are prettier.
Jerk.
I'm sorry. It's just that Dad's History Channel frequently said we had to see this right in California. This isn't my idea of a great time at all.
It's okay. It's a couple of hours wasted. Disneyland's open to midnight anyway. You know, I'm really glad you asked me along. Things have just been so bad at home with my mom being sick and all. We have those hospice people that are all hours of the day and night. I just had to get away.
I'm sorry. Has there been any change?
No. She's off the chemo. Just a matter of time. Hey, I don't want to be a downer for your vacation. I mean, this is the best thing in the world. It's just that...
Just what?
It's just that I didn't know your brother's going to bring his Neanderthal friend of his along. What a bore. I'd rather drive in a car filled with dead fish than with him.
I know she wants me to ask her out. I just know it. What more could a girl want? Good looking, great sense of humor, most valuable player on the football team.
Biggest mouth.
She's just playing hard to get, that's all.
Lay off, Tom. She's got a lot of problems.
Problems? Yeah, right.
Listen, her mom has cancer. From what I've heard my parents say, well, she doesn't have much time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had no idea.
Just don't let on that I told you anything. Why do we have to come here anyways? Susan, she's having enough problems without this being thrown at her. Why would somebody build a place like this? It's not for our age group. Old people die, not young people.
Hey, Carol, when are your parents going to pick us up? Why'd they have to drop us off here? I'll bet they left us and went out of Disneyland so they could be first in line for Space Mountain.
I'm sorry. We brought you along. Dad thought we might get something out of this by going through here.
Well, if this place is so great, where are your parents, duh?
Dad said that when he and Mom came here last year, it was a great experience.
Yeah, right. This is just how I spend my vacation. In a stupid building with a bunch of pictures of dead people. What a load of crap. They give you these cars with pictures of kids on them when you come in, and you're supposed to relive their life story. I heard that most of this was made up and never happened. If I'm going to play World War II, I want a player's card of someone who had a little power. Like Adolf Hitler. Sieg Heil!
What was that?
Just part of the show. Dad said that they tried to recreate the atmosphere to make it seem more real.
That's right. Try to make it seem real. This is just a Californian tourist trap. Things like this do not happen.
Oh, yes, it does. And it did. 11 million people were exterminated during World War II. The Nazis built death camps to kill all those who were not the right type of people. All who were enemies of the state were tortured and murdered.
Oh, so you got dumped here too?
In a way, you might say that.
Watch your mouth. Don't offend someone.
Well, I'm ticked. I don't want to be here.
Neither do we.
That's the problem with parents nowadays. They forget we have to have a little fun time before we go old and boring like them. Life can be a real...
You should be thankful for what you have. Most people don't truly appreciate things until they lose them.
Don't mind him. He'd grab if we hung him with the new rope.
Well, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I'm out of here. If I have to waste my vacation time, it won't be in a museum. I'm waiting outside. Hey, the doors are locked.
Relax. It's probably just part of the show.
What right do these people have to lock us in here? Can't stand close-in areas.
It's horrible to be locked up. To be so frightened that the only thing you're aware of is your heart pounding. And the screams around you as the end comes. I'm getting scared. There's a point beyond fear that you cannot imagine.
Enough already. Who are you?
Look at the cards in your hands.
You're Sarah.
Sarah Lee Boyce. I died in 1944.
Hey, I get it. This is all just part of the show. These animatronics are great. They make Parts of the Caribbean look lame.
I don't think they're animatronics.
Sure they are. Oh boy.
Well, my card has.
Isaac Kreuzberg. I died in 1943.
This is getting way too freaky. I want to get out of here.
But why us? We were born in the 1940s, and neither were our parents. What do you want from us?
A moment of your time, that's all. Ours ran out. A long time ago.
But I heard that most of this was made up and never really happened. That they were just stories that have been twisted around over time.
Oh no. They were very real. And you see, that's why you're here right now. We sort of, well, we selected you
But why us?
to tell our stories to others. You've read all about it in your history books, but it seems the lesson still has not been learned.
What lesson?
How hate can grow from simple beginnings to a monster that destroys everything in its path. Every time that you look at someone and think they're less than you, just because they're not like you, you plant a tiny seed of hate. And with time and proper care, it will grow.
Sort of like Ryan who lives down the street from me.
I always wondered about him.
Just like that. Or about the Mexican boy at school that you didn't invite to your birthday party because you thought he just wouldn't fit in.
How did you know about that?
Now I feel bad because I didn't talk to Melissa because her family went to that church my friends hate.
See, now you're getting the picture.
But why us? How do we have a connection with you?
Listen to our stories. I think we understand a little bit better.
was Josef Weisel. Life didn't change much until the Nazis came. I was 12 years old then. I didn't know about the politics going on in the world around me. Life was good, and I didn't think about much more than playing ball with my friends, Hebrew school, and studying the violin. The invasion of Poland brought all that to an end. My parents and I were not allowed to use certain stores, and many of my friends, they could no longer play with me. The ball team got smaller and smaller as their kids and their families were taken away. We were made to wear a yellow star for identification. People looked at me differently then. I was the same person, but the world around me had changed. My parents heard rumors and knew that things were going to be bad. The day came we were told to report to the train depot. There was a long line of cattle cars that we were forced into. The one prized possession that I had was my violin. A guard came up to me and he said, "You have no need for this. Where you are going?" He took it from me. He threw it to the ground, and he smashed it. It belonged to my grandpapa. I studied so hard and wanted to be so good when I played it. I saw people pushed and beaten as they got onto the train. One old woman wasn't moving fast enough, so a guard, he pulled out a pistol and he shot her in the head. Her family screamed and cried as they tried to help her. The guard told him to hurry, or there would be another. We walked through her blood as we got onto the train. It wasn't until then that I was really scared. Snow had started to fall, and it was very, very cold. When we were in the boxcar, there were so many people that we couldn't even sit down. We rode for 2 days without food or water. It was late at night when we arrived at the concentration camp. Mother was very ill, and Father was trying to help her stand. He was worried what might happen to her if she couldn't move fast enough. The door to the boxcar opened, and we were drug out. There were many guards and dogs that would bite at us. Suddenly a guard had a hold of my hand, pulled me away from my parents, and he said, "This one is too small and should go into the other line." My parents screamed and cried as they were put into another line. That was the last that I ever saw them. The line that I was in was forced off in a different direction. It was mostly women and kids my age. We were so cold that the body heat of the people next to me felt good. There was a long building that we were put into. All of a sudden, the door slammed shut with a loud bang, and everything got dark. People started to scream and cry as there was a strange smell that came from something that was put in from the ceiling. People were choking and gagging and clawing over each other to get to the door. Someone fell on top of me. Everything got quiet.
I was Helen Stern. I knew my family was worried about what was going on. Papa had a butcher shop 2 blocks from where we lived, and the synagogue was on the other end of the street. We observed the Sabbath and holidays and had a large group of friends. I was excited for my brother's 13th birthday. It was to be the next day. He had studied so hard for his bar mitzvah. That night, as we sat down to dinner, there was a lot of noise out in the street. We ran outside to see what was going on. There were men going from shop to shop, breaking windows and writing things on the walls. Papa ran to stop them, but they threw him to the street and started to kick him in the face and stomach. My older brother Jacob ran to pull him aside. As we were helping Papa back to the house, we could see the synagogue in flames. Neighbors were running in to bring out the Torah and whatever they could save. That night, it was cold and dark hiding in their homes for fear of what had just happened. The next morning, we went outside to see what was left of our neighborhood. Papa's shop had been destroyed. He sat on the street curb and he cried. That evening, we went to the rabbi's house for my brother's bar mitzvah because the synagogue had been destroyed the night before. In the corner of the room, I could see the burnt remains of the Torah and what should have been tears of joy for us were tears of sorrow for the destruction that had been caused. That was the last family gathering my family was to have. In a matter of weeks, we were transported to a horrible place with barbed wire and guards who didn't like you. I was somehow put in a different line than my family. They went straight to the gas chambers. I survived. I wish I hadn't. There was a guard who liked to beat me whenever he thought I wasn't working hard enough.
Why have you not?
I'm sorry, sir. I'll try harder.
That's not
I'm sorry.
good
Please
enough.
don't beat me. No, please. I'm sorry. Please don't beat me. No, please. I'm sorry.
I was Isaac Kurtzberg. My family have lived in the village for generations. I'm sure that I probably would have lived there for the rest of my life, too. Grandfather lived with us at our small home. Father was a tailor and somehow managed to make a living. He was a tall man who always knew how to make me laugh, even in worst of times. I remember when we were moved into the Warsaw Ghetto. We ended up in buildings with several other families. Even though we were crowded, we all managed to get along. One day we heard soldiers come running down the street. They went to every corner house and took one man out. That was when they took my grandfather. They pulled him out to the street and shot him. He would never hurt anyone.
I was Molly Fromm. I had many friends before the war. My mother's house was a place where everyone gathered after school. I still remember the wonderful smells from the kitchen that would greet us when we got home. Gingerbread and all kinds of cakes and cookies. We would all laugh and sing around the piano and tell each other our deepest secrets. It was a time that we thought would go on forever. But it didn't. Almost overnight, my group of friends grew smaller and smaller. Their parents wouldn't let them come to my house anymore. They wouldn't even talk to me at school. Before long, the ones who had once been my friends started to call me names and say I was responsible for everything that's wrong with their lives. They had learned to hate me from their parents. Day came when we were told to report to City Square to be relocated. We were only allowed 2 suitcases. We had to leave Mother's piano and everything else in our house behind. As we were walking down the streets to where the trucks were going to pick us up, I could see many who had once been my friends looking out from behind the drapes of the windows. Heidi, who had been my best friend in 2nd grade, came out and threw stones at us. The next couple of days were terrible in the trucks. On the 3rd day, we arrived in a camp filled with Nazi soldiers. They put us in another truck, started the engine, but the truck didn't move. It was so dark inside, but there was a door in the back that they had closed. What I didn't know was there was a connection from the exhaust to the inside of the truck. I got very sleepy, curled up next to my mother. I thought I could smell gingerbread. Got very quiet.
Was Trudy Klein. The Nazis came for me the day after my 14th birthday. I knew things were going to be bad, but I never imagined the nightmare I was going to be living. My family and I were to go into the Warsaw Ghetto. We knew they were going to be coming for us the next day, so my parents started to get us ready. There were 6 of us living in our house. My parents, brother, uncle, and grandmother. Mother told us that the only things we could take with us were the things we could carry with us when we moved out. The only thing of real value we had was a small box with diamonds that had belonged to my grandmother. This would be the only way for us to survive if we got out. Mother put the diamonds, one at a time, into small pieces of bread and had us swallow them, for she had heard how all valuables would be taken from us. The day we moved was terrible. We were checked out into a long waiting line where one at a time the soldiers would check our clothing to see if we were hiding anything. A woman just in front of us was searched, and the Nazis found a gold pin hidden in her coat. When they tried to take it from her, she snatched it back and screamed no, that it had belonged to her husband, and it was all she had left to remember him by. The soldiers pulled her out of line and started to kick her in her face and stomach. After a couple minutes, she no longer had a face. I was so scared that I thought I was going to get sick and throw up. I could feel the sweat drip down my face, even though it was freezing outside. They came to me and started to check my coat. I started to choke. I couldn't control it any longer, and I threw up at the soldier's feet. I looked down at the mess I created. I never knew if it was me or the soldier that noticed what sparkled in the puddle. Before we couldn't do anything, they pulled us out of line and into an alley where they turned their guns on us. Mama tried to shield my face with her hands.
What a waste of humanity. Men, women, children, young and old, gone forever. Children who had hopes and dreams like you, that never got to see them, gone.
I want to be a great author.
I wanted to be a research scientist.
I wanted to be a mother.
I wanted to be a musician.
I wanted to be a poet.
All of these lives, gone as victims of hate. You have your dreams for tomorrow. Will someone take them from you?
I had no idea. But I still don't understand why us? What do we have to do with something that happened 50 years ago? A half a century ago all this happened. Things like this can't happen again today.
That's exactly what my family thought. Right up until the doors of the gas chamber closed behind them. Look around you. There are all kinds of organized hate groups. They're just waiting for the time to be right to step in. There have been too many years of broken lives. There's going to be a tomorrow of peace. It has to start with people like you. Think of all that could have been accomplished in human history. Had the Holocaust never happened. All of your lives would have been affected.
How? Your life would have been greatly changed from what it is going to be.
How was that?
Had I lived, I would have been the one to discover the cure for cancer in 1992. This would have been early enough to save millions of lives, including your mother's. And your life, too.
My great-granddaughter would have been entering the same time and place as you in college. She was to be the love of your life that you will never know, you will never marry. You will grow old and lonely.
Okay. What's in store for me?
Oddly enough, your future will take a different path from this day. You'll be one to help to bring rest for us at last.
Me? How? My grandparents came from Germany and never talked about any of this stuff. I've never been into any of this. What is my connection?
Isaac.
They never knew about it. Your great-grandfather worked in the camps. He was the one who let him lifeless body to the oven. Watched me turn to ashes with countless others.
No. No. It can't be true. I came from a family of good people. They would never do anything like that.
Good people can do terrible things when they start to follow the wrong leaders. There were thousands of innocent German children who were turned to masses of hate-screaming Hitler youth. By the end of the war, they were being sent into battle as a last effort to create the master race.
I'm so ashamed. You must hate me.
You did nothing to us. People can't hate other people because of what their ancestors did. If we did, we'd never learn to live together in peace.
It's okay. It takes a strong person to be able to change.
What was that?
Door's just open. In more ways than one. Tomorrow's what you're going to make of it. You'll become what you want to be.
What's in the next room?
Gas chamber. And after that's the lobby. The door to the street. Tomorrow.
I had no idea. I guess you really can't judge somebody until you walk in their shoes.
You never told us what you wanted to be.
I guess if I lived,
You are, Sarah. You are.
First half of the last century, 11 million people were killed because they were different. You are our hope. This never happens again.